Hi, good morning. I'm here with Tiffany Snowden from Willow Heritage. How you doing, Tiffany?
I'm good, thanks, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Thanks very much for
Good.
coming on to the business spotlight. So if you could start us off, as we always ask our guests, to give us a bit more introduction as to who you are, what it is you do, how long you've been doing it for, please.
Yeah, so my name's Tiffany and I am an archaeologist, which is always quite an exciting term, but I think people
Yeah.
think of Indiana Jones and the Mummy and things like that. And I think I probably thought that as well when I started. But currently I work as an archaeologist and heritage consultant. So what we do is we help people get planning permission for their listed buildings, if they have a property in a conservation area, new build developments on greenfield and brownfield sites and things like that. Anything that's got a heritage constraint or issue in planning, we sort of help clear those hurdles.
Fantastic. And when did you start the business?
So started in August 2021, so it is our third birthday in just a month's time, which is quite exciting. And it was, I think, right after one of the lockdowns lifted, and I
Mhm.
thought, I know what I'll do. I'll start a new business. This can't possibly go wrong. Um, and yeah, it was very much we'll see how things go in the first 6 months. And I'll sort of, if things go wrong, I'll just jump back into full-time employment. We'll be fine. And I've just, through a combination of, I always say lucky, and I think I tell myself off after because it's not luck. It's obviously
Yeah, yeah.
luck, a bit of luck and hard work and all of that put together. But here we are 3 years later. So it obviously was a good decision.
Yeah, definitely. I always believe you earn your own luck. So you've got to kind of take the initiative to present yourself with opportunities that
Hmm.
come about. So while it may be a bit lucky, something kind of comes into the mix, but it wouldn't have been there if you hadn't have taken certain decisions before that based on your own, initiative. So
Yeah.
good for you. What was the spark then that started the business? Where were you working as an archaeologist before and then transferred into the planning business side? What was it for you that made you want to go from where you were to starting a business?
Yes, I mean, I've been doing something in the heritage world for the last 10 years. So I started out in museums, and then I did a bit of fieldwork archaeology, and
Mhm.
then I moved into sort of heritage planning and heritage consultancy. I used to live in London, and then I was working for a practice based in North Yorkshire as well, based in Bedale for the last sort of 5 years before
Mhm.
when we made the move up north. And towards the last maybe 2 years, I've been promoted to senior consultant, and I was taking on a lot more of the actual day-to-day running of the business, doing most of the finance, most of the client interaction. I'd built quite a good, relationship with my client base,
Mhm.
and slowly but surely, the current partners had started taking more of a back seat in the business as well. And I sort of thought to myself, well, I can do this. I've been doing this for 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
Even if I only had, one or two projects a month, I would still be financially better off than I currently am. Why don't we give it a try? And then I think it just turned into a bit of a challenge of like, well, am I setting myself up here? Like, I guess I've been doing it under this current existing structure of a
Mhm.
business, but I'm going to go off on my own and have none of that protection, none of that additional
Yeah.
experience from my bosses at the time. So it was a little bit scary, but I think it was also this exciting prospect of being able to do things my way.
Sure.
I'd obviously learned a lot from them, and I'd learned a lot from previous employers, but there was always things I wanted to do a little bit differently, but didn't have the authority or leeway to do that.
Mhm.
And I think that the prospect of being able to shape something into exactly how I wanted it to be and offer the exact kind of service that I'd always wanted to, that was the main driving force.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's one of the positives, the beauties of running your own business, being able to kind of have your own vision of what makes you different, things like that. So
Mhm.
what is it that makes you different or stand out? What are those kind of values that you bring to the business?
So I think in terms of other consultancies, they tend to be more just straight report writing. A proposal will come in, they'll look at it, they'll write a report, they'll submit it. That's the end of it. There's not a lot of client interaction, not a lot of input into the design team as well. And I think I'd always particularly liked that side of my job, was actually being able to shape a proposal and say, you shouldn't put that door here. You should put the door over here and reinstate this part of the garden, or these are the type of historic windows you should be looking to replicate in your home, not this particular type, and things like that. Having a bit of a more of a say and more of a design input into things, and not to veer into the architect's lane, but work together
Yeah.
with them and work together with the whole team. So that's one thing we really pride ourselves on as a team, is making sure that we're not letting anybody submit something that we think has a chance of being refused. We'll always be quite honest and straightforward, and not try and placate them and say, look, you bought a listed building, this is what you need to do ultimately. And if it doesn't work for you, you probably bought the wrong house, which can be quite a difficult conversation to have with a
Yeah.
new homeowner. um, but I also think as well is this idea of trying to give back to people who are newer to the industry, so graduates or people changing careers in the any age really,
Mhm.
because it's very, very difficult to get your foot in the door in the heritage world. I found that when I was a graduate, I found that throughout my whole career really, it's very, very difficult for anyone to sort of get their foot in the door. And so I wanted to change that and say, well, we're going to be a place that people can come and ask questions. We'll do placements, we'll do linking up with universities and try and get people through the door. And especially women in heritage as well, because I think if you
Mhm.
think about archaeology, the first picture that comes to mind is a bearded bloke with a hat and cargo shorts and time team.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
people think about. And at the moment, we're an all-female team.
Mhm.
We're very much kind of changing the face of what archaeology can look like, and it's very much, we're very well placed in an office, but we're also quite happy with our hard hats and our steel toe cap boots and our high vis and
Yeah.
climbing ladders and doing all sorts. So it's just trying to change that narrative a little bit.
Brilliant. Love that. So what's the business journey been like over the last, since 2021? So what are we looking at, 3 years or so?
3 years,
We're
yeah.
coming up to your birthday soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's that business journey been like when you've taken on that business and creating that, I suppose, different image of the world that you've entered?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's been broadly positive,
Mhm.
in the sense that I was very fortunate that when I announced that, I was sort of setting up on my own, I
Mhm.
had a couple of old clients, even from when I was working in London, reach out to me and say, look, we've got this job down here. Are you happy to
Yeah.
travel across the country? So in the beginning, it was very much traveling, down to Sussex one week and then up to Northumberland another week, and it was very just getting where the work was, really just trying
Mhm.
to get as much work in as possible. And it was just me, so there were time constraints and sort of capacity constraints as well, but it was just me for about a year. And it went from working in this very spare room, this spare office,
Yeah.
to a co-working space in Harrogate, and then moving into another co-working space that was slightly bigger. And eventually I took on my first hire, about exactly a year, oh, just under a year. I think it was about
Mhm.
10 months in, and she was actually under me at my old company. So she ended up wanting to leave, and I said, look, I'm in a place now where I can take you with me if you want to come over.
Yeah.
And so she joined me as well, which was lovely. But that was quite scary as well, because up until that point, bringing work in was just for me and my mortgage and
Yeah. Yeah.
my
Big move.
livelihood. And all of a sudden someone else is relying on you as well, and I think that was
Sure.
when it shifted for me. It was very much like, this is it, like we are a real business.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a business owner now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it was quite exciting, and I think I thought, okay, well, I can do this. I've managed to do before, like we'll be fine. And I think the hardest part of that was trying to delegate, because
Mhm.
in another company, yes, you're all working together and you have your projects, but this is my baby, and having to trust someone else to look after it the same way that I would, and treat clients the same way that I would, and kind of build that company culture was scary. But I had to do it, because then we were bringing someone else on as well, which we did through a mentorship scheme with the University of York. So had one of their graduates come over, just kind of mentor us, shadow us, with the view of giving her a full-time job once she graduated her master's. So that worked out as well. And we're a team of three, which is really exciting. So
Really good. So what does the future look like? Obviously, recruiting more, is it growing? And what do you see as the new challenges or opportunities that you have?
Yeah, so sustainable growth for sure. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people will say, well, we're really busy, we need to hire someone immediately. But I'm very cautious and want to make sure that, it's sustainably done and we have enough work to sustain a new person for the next 6 months. So I kind of want to stretch ourselves a bit and say, okay, we're at capacity, we've been at capacity for a good while now, it's time
Yeah,
to bring someone in. So it's in the works at the moment. We're speaking to quite a few graduates and sort of early careers people. So just kind of seeing what happens. But I don't want to ever lose that sort of personal touch because, if a client calls, that they can always talk to me, they can talk to anyone.
mhm,
They know that we all know their project and we all know what they're doing.
sure.
So I would like to grow, but I never want to lose that sense of, personal touch. I think that's
Yeah.
that's what gets your client relationships to flourish really.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess the challenges, I mean, from a kind of industry side, it's definitely the new government. There's completely new swaths of planning policy coming out. There's a brand new a planning framework coming out next month. Obviously, a big push to develop in sort of greyfield sites and
Mhm.
rejig greenfield sites and things like that. So I think it's exciting, and I think there's lots of opportunities for us to get involved in it as well. But it's just making sure that they're still protecting the heritage and championing conservation. You can have development and conservation side by side; they're not mutually
Sure.
exclusive. So it's just seeing how it all plays out, I think.
Very good. Do you have to, when the new government comes in, do you have to start reading up then what the new changes are going to be? Does that involve a lot of kind of say manual work? It's probably not the right, but in terms of all that reading and sacrificing some of the time on the business to kind of go away and have to have a look at that and see how it affects you.
Yeah, I think it's really important to stay ahead and sort of get an idea of who's been put on which cabinet, what are their
Mhm.
leanings, what have they sort of done in the past? Are they looking to, completely abolish the existing, heritage protections we have and things like that? But the IHBC, which is the Institute for Historic Building Conservation, did a really good lecture on that last week that me and my colleagues went to, and it just sort of broke down what can we expect based on previous voting records and things like that.
Mhm.
So that was really useful. And I think it sort of calmed a lot of people in the industry down a bit because although, yes, the Labour government is going to be pushing development, absolutely,
Yeah,
it's going to be done, I think, again, in a sustainable way. And the framework will change, but it won't change so dramatically as to impact people's,
sure.
this industry, I don't think.
Good stuff. So it's kind of an example of yeah, learning and
Mhm.
keeping that up to date. So what is your biggest lesson to date so far since being in business?
Oh, I think it's going to be a really cliche one. I think it's going to be the importance of networking, which I
Yeah.
didn't really appreciate the value of when I was just, fully employed.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not even heavy networking, as in going to all the events or, being like signing up for every single online webinar or anything like that. It is literally just building those relationships and doing it doesn't matter if the client is doing a really small job or a really big job, treating them the same because you never
Mhm.
know who they know and you
Sure.
never know who they're going to recommend you to. Or if you're casually at an event that's completely not industry related and someone mentions planning, my ears perk up. If someone says historic building, my ears perk up, and I'm very shameless about saying, sorry, I couldn't help but overhear that you've got an issue with your
Yeah.
windows or something. And yeah, I think definitely networking, but also like you said earlier, staying up to date with sort of current policies and current sort of trends in the industry, and not just ours, but things like
Mhm.
architecture or ecology, what's going on with, our colleagues in quantity surveying and things like that. And just sort of because we're all in the same game really.
Mhm.
And if things are going badly for one of us, then it's probably going to go badly for the rest of us as well. So it's just trying to stay on top
Yeah.
of the changes coming through. But yeah, it's very much what's this saying it's who you know at the end of the day, isn't
Yeah.
it? So,
Well, what's coming to my mind is you're earning your own luck again, but
mm,
doing it through having, again, your sort of value-based way of working in terms of treating one client the same as another, no matter
yeah,
how big the project is. But if you do a good job consistently, then you're going to earn your own luck, get a reputation, and get referrals, things like that. So that's a great share. And then also was something that was coming to mind listening to you there and working out what is it that kind of inspires you? What out of all the things that you do, because there's many facets of running a business, is it the core of helping clients? Is it doing the learning? Is it all of it? What is it that sort of gets you out of bed then?
I think for me, it's definitely setting an example for my staff and for creating an environment that's better for them than the one I had when I was their age. So especially like I said earlier, it's quite difficult to get into this industry, and a lot of you're not given as much freedom in your role in other companies, and certainly I wasn't. And I've been told things like, I'm too big for my boots and things like that when you
Wow.
make a small suggestion and stuff. So I'm very much of the opinion that I would need to champion them and raise them up. And if they've got an idea and it's a good idea and we can implement it, we'll do it. And they're very much aware that they're on this journey with me and they have the opportunity to help shape the business as well. So it's very much a team effort. And obviously I've got the overall vision, but they can input into that vision and kind of see that come to life. And I
Sure.
think to be able to do that, for people who I look at and say, well, that was me 5 years ago, that was me 10 years ago. I think that's really special, is to sort of, even in a small pocket, in a small corner of Harrogate, be able to give them, a better start in the industry than I had. I think that's, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really rewarding.
That sounds like great leadership. So being an inspirational leader perhaps is the
I'd like to think so, but you'd have
yeah.
to ask them.
Great stuff. So if you were to go back to just starting out when you're 18, and if you were to give yourself a piece of advice, what would that be, Tiffany?
Oh gosh. I think it would be, don't listen when people tell you you can't do something. Because like I think I mentioned, yeah, there was a previous employer who, when I said I wanted to move into consultancy, I was sort of I was still working with historic buildings, but I was in a slightly different part of the team. And I said, no, I really want to do this. Like, how can I transition? Can you mentor me? What can we do? And I got dragged into the atrium of the office, which is quite large, and very publicly told that I was too big for my boots and that I would never make it as a heritage consultant without a master's degree. And I was like, right, okay, cool. Watch me, like
Yeah.
watch me do it. And I had this very full circle moment this year actually, where that same company and that same previous employer ended up coming to us because they didn't have the skills in house they needed to do a long-term big project.
Yeah.
So we've ended up joining them as the team, and it was just walking into that room and seeing this individual and saying, "Hi, so nice to see you. This is my team. Tell me again how I'm not going to make it." Like
Yeah.
I think that's very much, don't let people put false limitations on you, or believe you can't do something, because it is all about creating your own luck, as you said. So if
Or
somebody wants to do
yeah.
something, then go for it.
Yeah, that's it. Or if they do, like you've done, is use it as inspiration
Yeah.
to prove them wrrong.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
quite often this can be the case where people say you can't do things, but then people have not listened and gone on and done fantastic things. So
Yeah.
used it as motivation. Great stuff. And did that person apologize at all? Did they recognize the situation?
No, I don't think they remember,
No.
but I think it's always the case, isn't it? When you're the person in authority speaking, you don't
Yeah.
always remember what you've said, which is another thing
Sure.
I've taken on board, is to try and be careful that, even when you're giving feedback, it's constructive feedback, and it's very much, done in a friendly, positive way with my staff.
Sure.
So yeah,
Again, communication is key. I mean, words,
absolutely.
you don't realize how what an impact words can have on people, because everybody's different in the way they
Hmm.
receive that information, and to what you think might just be a throwaway comment to someone can be a really meaningful, impactful statement. So yeah,
Yeah.
you got to be careful with how you communicate. Good stuff. So then lastly, Tiffany, in terms of any sort of latest news around what you're up to, even if it's just a case of sharing your website and finding out where we can know more about what you do and getting in touch if needs be, feel free to do that now.
Yeah, of course. So we have a regular blog series every 2 weeks, which you can find on our website, which is bluewillowheritage.co.uk. And I suppose just a little shout out for my team, because we have all recently become accredited with different organizations in the industry, which is quite exciting. So I recently became a full member of the Institute of Historic Building Conservation. My colleague Sophie has become an affiliate member of the IHBC, and my colleague Elsa has become a accredited practitioner with the Chartered Institute for Archaeologists. So it's been a good month for getting
Awesome.
post nominals.
Congratulations.
And so yes, that's really exciting, and I'm really obviously very, very proud. But yeah, please feel free to get in touch. We're always happy to talk to people as well on the phone. If you've just bought a listed building and you
Mhm.
have no idea what to do or what you're allowed to do, please call us. We're happy to talk to you for free. We'll let you know what's going on, and then if you want some further help, then obviously we can give you a quote for that. But yeah, we would rather people talk to us first before making a mistake. And obviously,
Mhm.
there's legal implications with that as well, because it's illegal to do work to a listed building and things like that. So please call us.
Brilliant. Great stuff, Tiffany. Thank you very much for sharing all that you have. And it sounds like an exciting journey that you're on with your business. And I wish you, success for the future of it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.